Odyssey, Book 4. Telemachus goes to visit Menelaus, the other after of the Trojan War. Telemachus and Pisistratus arrive and are greeted by Lord Eteneus. Eteneus asks Menelaus if they should send the young boys away, angering Menelaus, who replies, "I didn't know you were a fool. How often have we eaten the food of a stranger, you and I, in other parts of the world, on our long journey home, praying that Zeus might somewhere give us rest and peace at last. Go, and take out their horses, and bring the men in to share our feast." The boys were welcomed into the dining room. Their hands were washed in a silver basin, and they were rubbed with oil and given fresh tunics. Telemachus remarks to Nestor's son that the light reflecting off the magnificent halls reminds him of what the house of Zeus might be like. King Menelaus cannot believe someone would compare a mortal's house to that of the Most High, and says to Telemachus, "My dear boys, no one can be compared to Zeus, let me tell you. His halls are imperishable, and so are his treasures. But there may be a man to match me, or there may not. I offer no opinion." Menelaus says that he has suffered much, and wandered, collecting treasures in Cyprus, Phoenicia, and Egypt. He saw the Ethiopians, the Sidonians, and their Rhymbians. He also went to Libya. But while on these exhibitions after Troy, he laments that he was absent during the murder of his brother Agamemnon, whom he still mourns for today. But while his own lot is sad, he says it is nothing compared to the sadness that Odysseus' family must be experiencing for their lost hero. Telemachus begins to weep. In your composition notebook, please title Book 4. The first main idea you should notate. Number 1. Telemachus and Nestor's son arrive in Sparta. Number 2. Menelaus welcomes the strangers, receives them with proper Greek hospitality before introductions are made. Number 3. Menelaus tells the boys he was at sea when his brother Agamemnon was killed, and he is still in mourning. Number 4. Menelaus says his mourning cannot be as sad as the family of Odysseus, and this causes Telemachus to weep. Continuing Book 4. While Telemachus is crying, Helen, Menelaus' wife, enters, questioning Menelaus over the identity of their guests, and asks if he might be the son of Odysseus. Menelaus responds to his wife's inquiries by saying, "I think so too. My dear, now you mention the likeness. That man had feet just like that, and hands just like that, and the way his eyes go, and a head and hair on him just like that. Just a moment ago, I was describing Odysseus as I remember him, what hard work he did for me, and all his distresses, when the young man burst into sobs and put up the purple cloak in front of his eyes." Prince Pisistratus reveals to Menelaus that this is indeed Odysseus' son, Telemachus, and that he has come seeking news of his father. Pisistratus makes reference to the troubles in Ithaca by saying to the Spartan king, in some ways cryptically, "There are always troubles in a house when the father is away, and the son is alone, and there are no others to stand up for him. So now, with Telemachus, his father is away, and there are no others in town who will protect him from injustice." To clear the despondent mood that had settled among the men, Helen poured a potion from Egypt in their wine in order to make them happy and cheerful over the rest of their meal. Helen says she is going to tell Telemachus everything he needs to know concerning his father during the Trojan War, beginning with the fact that he put his own body on the line to defend his men and ultimately slaughter the enemy. Menelaus then begins to tell the story of the Trojan horse. He says that many of the men were tempted to call out to Helen, as she tempted them from the walls of the city, but it was Odysseus who kept them quiet and allowed them to enter the city undetected. Hearing of his father's strong will only upsets Telemachus because he feels as if his father's strength was not enough to bring him home. He then asks to go to bed. In your composition notebooks, continue with this main idea. Number 1. Menelaus and Helen notice Telemachus's likeness to Odysseus. Number 2. Nestor's son confirms he is Odysseus' son. Number 3. Telemachus is worried that his father did not have the strength to return home. He is also beginning to doubt whether, after all his heroic adventures and accomplishments, perhaps his father doesn't come home because he is enjoying his adventures still. The next morning, Menelaus asks Telemachus what his purpose was in coming to see him, hoping he can help his long-lost friend's troubled son. Telemachus pleads for news of his father. He says, "My house is being eaten up, my rich estate is ruined, the place is full of malicious men, they want my mother as a wife, but all they do is outrage and violence. Do not soften your words out of pity, to spare me, but tell me plainly what you saw of him. I beseech you, and tell me the truth." Menelaus compares the home of Odysseus to that of a jungle, where the lion's domain has been overtaken by deer, saying, "Then the lion comes back to his lair, and deals death on the lot of them, dam and fawns, and tears them to pieces. So Odysseus will deal death on these, and tear them to pieces." Menelaus continues by saying, "If Odysseus was then, and can grapple with these men, as they gaily go a-wooing, quick would be their death, more ruing than wooing. But as to your prayer and petition, I'll not misguide you along. I will not deceive you, but what the old man of the sea told me, and he speaks the truth, that I will tell you, and hide nothing." Menelaus then relays his journey of being trapped at sea off the Egyptian coast and the struggles he faced in returning home. He begins by saying that the gods were keeping him from returning home because he had not offered the appropriate sacrifices, and he was being punished. Menelaus was stuck for 20 days, unable to set sail due to lack of wind. He says, "All our provisions would have been used up, and the spirit of the men gone, if a divine being had not pitied me and saved me, a daughter of mighty Proteus, the old man of the sea, servant to Poseidon, one Odyssey." Proteus is known for taking on many disguises, and enjoys using trickery to contain immortals. But Odyssey informs Menelaus of his many disguises and routines, so that in the morning he will know how to answer and can set sail. Proteus is upset that his usual tricks are not working, and eventually resigns that Menelaus will be allowed to set sail, after offering a hearty sacrifice to Zeus. After learning that he will be allowed to set sail home, though it be a dangerous route, Menelaus asks Proteus what happened to the other men who left Troy alongside him. Proteus says many were lost, and others were left, with one still being left at sea, and another who thought he could conquer Poseidon was thrown into the bottomless deep to perish. Proteus then tells him of the fate his brother, Agamemnon, met after leaving Troy. He said that as Agamemnon was approaching his country's shore, a spy was watching for him, so that when he arrived, Agasthos put together his plot and killed Agamemnon. Menelaus says that upon hearing this news, "My heart was broken within me. I sat weeping and rolled my body on the sand, and cared no longer to live and see the light of the sun." Proteus encourages Menelaus regarding his brother's death, saying that Orestes plans to avenge his death, and Menelaus should prepare for that. As a final request, Menelaus requests the name of the man still lost at sea, and learns that Odysseus is being held captive on Calypso's island. In your composition notebooks for Book 4, continue with these main ideas. Number 1. Menelaus received information from Proteus, the old man in the sea. He was told, A. Agamemnon is dead. B. Odysseus is captive on Calypso's island at this time. After receiving news regarding his father, Telemachus is ready to leave Sparta. Menelaus asks him to stay, but he refuses. However, the suitors, back at home, not having known that Menelaus left, are just as anxious for him to return. One of the suitors, Noman, informs Antinous that Telemachus has left for Pylos on his ship, and he is anxious for him to come back so he can use it for his own trip. Antinous is surprised by this question because none of the men were aware that Telemachus had even left. Antinous questions why Neaman would send Telemachus his ship, but Neaman responds by asking, who should say no to their rightful leader? Antinous is mad that their plot to kill Telemachus has been foiled by Telemachus' own departure, but he plans to lay in wait against the sea so as to be ready to enact their plot when Telemachus arrives by ship. In your composition notebooks, continue with these main ideas. Number 1, Telemachus is ready to sail for home. Number 2, back in Ithaca, the main ringleader of the suitors, Antinous, learns that Telemachus has escaped their plot to kill him by going to sea. And number 3, Antinous has men lay in wait on the shore for Telemachus' return in order to kill him before he reaches home. Medon, the marshal, overheard the suitors' plots to kill Telemachus, and immediately went to Penelope to inform her of Telemachus' absence and the suitors' plot against him. Upon hearing of Telemachus' departure, of which she knew nothing about, in combination with the evil plots of the men in her home, Penelope weeps. She is consoled by her nurse Eurycula, who bathes her and encourages her to pray to Athena for protection for her son. Antinous chooses 20 men, and they board a ship to sit in the harbor, waiting for Telemachus to arrive back in Ithaca so they can kill him. Seeing Penelope in despair, Athena creates a phantom that Penelope might recognize to appear to her while she sleeps, in order to comfort her. The phantom informs Penelope that her son is being looked after by the goddess Athena, and that she should not weep for him. Penelope asks what she knows of her husband, but the phantom cannot say. We are left with a soothed Penelope and a harbor full of scheming murderers. In your composition notes, continue with these main ideas. Number 1, the suitor's plot is heard and relayed to Penelope. Number 2, this is the first time Penelope has heard that Telemachus is gone. You may wonder why she didn't know, as we can assume he has been gone several weeks. Perhaps it was not unusual for an almost adult man to adventure far from home. Number 3, Penelope frequently weeps in the Odyssey, for Odysseus and now Telemachus. Athena is a constant comfort and soothes her.